Howdy there, friends, family, adversaries, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary folks. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Riley Constantine, and today we are reviewing The Mitchells vs. the Machines, which is the new great animated film that's currently available to stream on Netflix. It should be a good spoiler-free episode, and without further ado, here we go. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is one of the most creative mainstream animated movies I have seen in a long time. While this Michael Rianata-directed film is a heartfelt family affair with a strong emotional core and a sharp sense of wit, The Mitchells vs. the Machines is an artistic tour de force that combines a multitude of different film genres to positive effect. It simultaneously works as a family film, a comedy, a coming-of-age story, a road trip movie, and a science fiction action-adventure, and amazingly enough, the movie excels at all of these genres. It is truly fun, hilarious, and has a good heart and message. And through it all, The Mitchells vs. the Machines achieves greatness, which is really an impressive feat given that the odds were stacked against it. And to be clear, yes, there were a lot of ways that this movie could have gone wrong, mostly because the vast majority of Hollywood animated family films are pretty bad. In fact, more often than not, big studio animated films are merely avenues for obnoxious product placement that hide their lack of narrative and thematic depth behind costly celebrity voice casts and shallow, insipid referential humor. In other words, they have a tendency to be bad, and if anything, the animated family films marketed to kids are just soulless experiences that inspire minimal emotional resonance from the viewer and regularly show an inability to focus on a meaningful narrative. They are hollow films not worth getting invested in, just like Star Trek Into Darkness. Yet, The Mitchells vs. the Machines succeeds where all these other animated family films failed. Bumping the bad animated film trend, the movie features a heartwarming story, wholesome characters, relatable themes, and a wickedly devilish sense of humor that all kept me engaged in the film long term. It is a legitimately great movie, and in a genre that is so often corporatized, being bottom-of-the-barrel dog shit, the type that even my shit-chomping Labrador wouldn't touch, that is high praise indeed. And to be honest, I unabashedly love this film, can't recommend it enough, and as sacrilegious as it might be to say, The Mitchells vs. the Machines is the best animated Hollywood movie since Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, it's really that good. The Mitchells vs. the Machines' great qualities start with its terrific premise. The plot follows the Mitchells, who are a fairly typical American family in the sense that they are dysfunctional and have difficulties with their internal familial relationships, just like I do. The most notable of these relationship troubles is between the college-bound art student Katie and her outdoors handyman father, Rick. No relation. Their relationship at the start of the film is a bit rocky, mostly because the two are complete personal opposites that can't agree on anything, which makes sense seeing as Katie is a creative who dreams of being a filmmaker, whereas Rick is a realist and purveys Katie's creative aspirations as a fool's errand, viewing her choice of California school and her movie business career choice to be something that won't net her gainful employment in the long term. And because of this fundamental disagreement, the two are at an impasse at the start of the movie. They are essentially approaching the event horizon of their relationship. At the start of the movie, Rick senses that he might lose his daughter forever, and because of this, he hatches a scheme where he, Katie, his wife Linda, and younger son Aaron go on a road trip across America so that they can drop Katie off at her college campus personally, which is a last-ditch plan that has all the imaginable hijinks and drama you can imagine. Rick makes a fool of himself, young Katie is resentful, and you know how it goes. At least this is the case until the robot apocalypse hits, because in case you forgot, this endearing family film becomes a science fiction action-adventure as well. Basically, the plot is kickstarted into motion when a malicious Alexa or Siri-style app takes over an army of robots and abducts all the humans on Earth and plans to shoot them all into space, because the machines really don't like us. Through their superior numbers and technology, the machines round up all the humans on Earth and board them onto spacecrafts, and the situation is dire. Yet there is one last hope. See, despite all the odds against them, the Mitchells are the machines' one outlying problem. Where every other human being on Earth was captured and imprisoned, the Mitchells somehow found a way to evade the machines successfully, and from there it is up to them to work together as a family unit, take down the machines, and save the human race as humanity's last remaining hope. No pressure. This story is strong, mostly because all of the Mitchell family have terrific character arcs. Aaron is a socially awkward kid that needs to come out of his shell. Linda wishes her family was a picturesque American unit rather than the disaster piece they are. And most importantly, Katie and Rick need to mend their relationship so that they can work together cohesively and save the world, which is very important, for obvious reasons. Regardless of which family member it is, all the Mitchells are incredibly relatable, and were clearly written with a lot of heart and humanity, and as a result, it is easy to connect with the Mitchells' dysfunctional lives. Younger kids can relate to the dinosaur-loving Aaron, teens and college students can understand where Katie's coming from, and parents can easily see Rick's and Linda's perspective. And impressively enough, The Mitchells vs. the Machines spends a lot of time crafting these characters and their family dynamic, and the effort pays off in big dividends by being a film with heart that can appeal to every member of a respective household. And from a storytelling perspective, that is really impressive. All the Mitchells feature narrative depth, strengths, weaknesses, and character quirks, and it all complements the story that The Mitchells vs. the Machines is telling. And speaking as a creative type, that's not easy to do. Like, that is a lot of narrative, thematic, and character development layering that all must work cohesively together rather than detract from the film overall. Yet The Mitchells vs. the Machines pulls it off with flying colors. This movie just has a lot of heart. A ton of effort was clearly taken to make all these characters so damn relatable, and as ridiculously outlandish as some of their antics are, they come from a truly understandable place. Furthermore, the wholesome story further complements The Mitchells vs. the Machines' inventive sense of humor, because let it be said, The Mitchells vs. the Machines is very funny. In fact, it is probably among the funniest films I've seen in a long time, mostly because, like the character development, the movie's sense of humor stems from the Mitchells' chaotic family dynamic. Katie plays pranks on her dad, Aaron doesn't know how to talk to girls, Linda is jealous of her neighbors, and Rick is the embodiment of dadness. All of these family dynamics are understandable to many of us, and through the sharp script and the detailed animation, the film is able to embellish these inherently familiar humorous characteristics to hilarious effect, and this is especially the case when the inventive science fiction elements come into play. Through car chases and extended action sequences, the movie posits the question of how a glorious mess of a family like the Mitchells would handle the robo-apocalypse, and the answer is always in a way that is really funny, because their actions, as outlandish as they are really damn understandable. Hell, when we watch the Mitchells craft scheme after scheme to combat the robots, we can see echoes of our own familial dynamics through these characters. Yes, they are that resonant. Furthermore, the comedy is further enhanced by the film's hectic animation style. Sure, the movie's animation admittedly is typical 3D rendered type of stuff that is present in most modern Hollywood animated films, but this otherwise seemingly simple art style is often punctuated with artistic two-dimensional flair that often accentuates both the jokes it is telling and the very inventive action sequences where the Mitchells battle the machines. Like, for sure it looks simple at first glance, but there is clearly more going on beneath the hood than the Mitchells originally lets on, which is an apt descriptor that describes both this movie and the Mitchells as a family as well. The Mitchells vs. the Machines has very minimal faults, but I do think it's worth noting them. The film does that thing that many kids' movies do by incorporating a pop song into the main narrative. Some of the base foundational animation can sometimes be a bit similar to that Grubhub commercial meme. Like, throughout the movie, I kept expecting Rick to start dancing with a chicken sandwich. Katie is revealed to be LGBTQ in a throwaway line at the end, which I kind of wish that she was introduced as bisexual or lesbian earlier in the movie, and the whole machines elements of the plot could potentially have been off-putting for both millennials and zoomers, seeing as the movie initially appeared to have an anti-technology and social media angle that villainizes the devices and the technology that younger generations use more so than older generations as an expansion of our social and occupational lives. But here is the thing. These are all either very minor nitpicks, or they were potential fears that never come to fruition. Like the pop song the movie incorporates into the plot is done very effectively, the animation is often more inventive than it lets on, Katie's queer identity and potential romantic relationships don't really have much to do with the film's overall thematic and narrative angle, and the movie is less a criticism of the pervasive use of technology and online applications by the world's youth, and more an attack against douchey tech bro CEOs like Zuckerberg, Musk, and the algorithm that runs Google that really do some unethical and unregulated shit with our personal data in order to make a buck, which was a very smart angle to take on the part of the movie. But then again, The Mitchells vs. the Machines as a whole is an intelligently crafted film. There are a lot of layers to the narrative, character development, comedy, animation, the terrific voice cast, Danny McBride as Rick especially, and the action sequences, and all these elements complement each other and essentially coalesce into a terrific movie experience, which admittedly shouldn't be a surprise given that The Mitchells vs. the Machines was made by a studio adjacent to the one that created Into the Spider-Verse. Overall, The Mitchells vs. the Machines is truly a great movie. It has a big heart, it's really funny, and the characters are very relatable. I would highly recommend it and would definitely watch a sequel. Bring on The Mitchells vs. the Aliens, or The Mitchells vs. the Zombies, or even The Mitchells vs. the Debt Collectors, because I'd watch the shit out of that. Alright, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like rating and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell so that you're notified for whenever I post a new video. And consider contributing to my Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to thank my high tier patrons, especially Slasher Vales, Mom, David Devlin, and Miles Nelson. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.